We all love the idea of starting fresh on January 1st, right? But let's be real. How many resolutions actually make it past the first few weeks? When they fail, it hits hard. You end up frustrated, disappointed, and wondering why you can't seem to stick to the promises you made yourself. I've been there too, and trust me, it's a terrible cycle to be in.
The people that live the most awesome lives, no one saw them coming because they were grinding and hustling in silence and in private. And then when they popped off, success did all the speaking for them.
Here's the truth. Sticking to your goals isn't as hard as it seems when you have the right approach. I've got 4 simple insights that changed everything for me, and I want to share them with you now. So grab a hot drink, put this on full screen to avoid any distractions, and let's make 2025 the year you actually stick to your resolutions.
Keep relearning the same lesson. If you keep making the same mistake over and over, the mistake isn't the problem. You are.
Let's be real for a second. When you make a resolution, it's because you know something in your life isn't where you want it to be. Maybe you're feeling stuck, lazy, disorganized, or just too drained to care enough to make a change. And honestly, I get it. I've been there too. But here's the thing. The fact that you're here right now listening to this tells me there's a part of you that still believes you can do better. And that's the part I want to talk to, the part that knows you're capable of more. You see, brother, something I've noticed about New Year's resolutions is that a lot of people make them without really understanding why they do it. I mean, I kind of get it. It's cool to talk about them with friends and family, but if you start your year off like this, it's not surprising you can't stay true to a promise of change. This is why the foundational principle of any resolution is creating the perfect seed.
It's like people shake their heads, like, oh, I never thought about it that way. It's like, yeah, think about it that way. Don't waste your damn life.
You know what I love most about self-transformation? Is that we all come into it with our own mix of wins, losses, and everything in between. No two journeys look the same, and that's what makes it so personal and powerful. Sal Di Stefano nailed it when he said, "The man who loves walking will walk further than the man who loves the destination." It's not about hitting that shiny end goal. It's about falling in love with the grind, showing up every day, and building a discipline that doesn't break when life throws curveballs. And trust me, I'm far from perfect. I've spent so many days envying those people who seem to have it all figured out, like they're living life on easy mode. It can make you feel like you're always behind. That's why this process matters. It's not about them, it's about you becoming unstoppable. I've been there, and I will show you how to break through that. Over the years, I've learned that these seemingly perfect people also struggle, just in different areas. For the longest time, the end of each year used to be a sore point for me. It was always a reminder of how I couldn't keep a promise to myself. I mean, if I can't stick to what I wanted to achieve, what was my word worth? But I've gotten better at this stuff, and I want to share some of the perspectives that had a big impact on me. And the first one is to think of New Year's resolutions like they're seeds. Seeds have everything they need to survive and grow. A thick shell to protect against harsh weather, energy reserves to sustain them until they sprout. Hell, some seeds even fly and float in water until they find fertile soil. But just like seeds find it difficult to grow in dry soil or among weeds and thorns, New Year's resolutions will fail if the conditions aren't right. In the past, the weeds and thorns to my resolutions were gaming and wasting time on my phone. I hadn't realized that if I wanted a resolution to last, it had to have enough strength to overcome the temptations lying in wait. I needed to ensure the force behind my resolutions was potent. Here's the deal. The foundation of any resolution has to be a deep, burning desire for change. That desire has to overpower every temptation and distraction pulling you back. Think of it like a rocket breaking free from a planet's orbit. If you don't have enough thrust, you'll stay stuck in the same cycle. This is where most people trip up, though. They focus on what they want to do, but forget the most important part, the why. Your why has to be so strong that it drives you forward, even when it's hard. I've seen some of you share incredible strategies in the comments on my other videos, and I'd love to hear more. If you've got a tip that helped you push through, drop it below, and let's keep inspiring each other. So how do you actually get enough thrust to free yourself? Well, the best way I found was to ask myself, what's behind this need to change? Sometimes you realize that you're done struggling against certain hard challenges and want to use them as opportunities for growth.
Discriminating between a challenge and an opportunity is very, very difficult. And learning to see a challenge as an opportunity, that's the beginning of wisdom.
Other times it's more straightforward, like a goal to grow your business and find new clients. If that's the case, then pay close attention to what you answer to the question, why do I really want this for myself? If your answer doesn't instantly inspire and convince you, then you'll have to make it inspiring and convincing. You can do this very easily. I like to visualize the opposite of my goal because nothing scares and convinces me more than picturing my life 10 years from now. Anytime I start to doubt my resolutions, I bring up that visualization and it's enough to remind me of what's at stake. It sounds a little negative, but sometimes you need to be willing to see harsh truths, and that's something no one wants to talk about these days. everywhere you go, online, all the advice you see is about self-love and how you deserve good things. And sure, there's a time and place for that. But if you're sitting at home, eating junk food all day, waking up in the afternoon, and stuck in an endless pleasure-seeking lifestyle, it's time to pace yourself. I would like to give you a quote at this point. It's from Democritus. "The brave man is he who overcomes not only his enemies, but his pleasures." If you can recognize that you're living a toxic lifestyle, then you also have to be willing to hate that part of yourself. Let me put it another way. You have to hate the version of yourself that's holding you back from your dream life. And there's a very good reason for this. It's because you can't change if you feel like your old world is a safe place to return to.
That's the last thing that you're willing to let die. You want to somehow maintain that fat, lazy slob, while on the other hand, getting money and success and sex and everything else that you want.
It's what I think Laurie Buchanan meant when she said, "What you are not changing, you are choosing." My friend, don't choose the old you in 2025. This type of conviction is the first important step, but staying true to your resolutions is a battle you'll fight every day, which is why you want to pick your resolutions wisely. It's funny, but something I've often noticed is that people love choosing resolutions, like they're ordering a sandwich at Subway. People are really picking resolutions, like they're saying yes to jalapenos, olives, turkey slices, and everything that's in front of them. There's no point in picking 5 different resolutions and then failing each of them. Like, I know some of you are super motivated, but if you think losing 50 pounds, doubling your income, finding your soulmate, and getting to speaking Mandarin at a native level is realistic, that's just silly. You'll simply end up spending several years on the same goals and never feel satisfied with your progress. Now, I'm not saying that you can't pick more than one resolution for 2025. You can, but you'll have to play it smart. Here's what I did at the beginning of 2024. I chose one resolution that I hoped to achieve by the end of the year, one resolution that I wanted to accomplish in 3 months, and one resolution that I was going to do every day. This spaced things out very nicely, and I never felt overwhelmed like I used to in the past. Obviously, you still need to know how to stay consistent through habits, but if you manage to stick with me till the end of the video, I will have a secret bonus tip for you that actually makes forming habits super easy. Let me tell you, if the purpose behind your resolution is strong enough, and if you split them into time frames like I did, you're already off to a better start than most people. What's the one resolution you're determined to stick to this year, and why does it matter to you? Share your thoughts in the comments. I want to hear about your goals, your struggles, and what's driving you to make this change. Let's see how we can support each other in making this year the one where it all comes together. Now, there's one more thing that can make a massive difference when making resolutions, and that's knowing how to frame them. Like, some people really don't seem to understand what being specific is. You would think it's obvious, but no.
If you don't specify what you want, you won't get it. If you specify what you want and you want it, which means you're willing to make the sacrifices necessary to get it, then the probability that you'll get it expands immensely.
That's right, it will expand immensely. Get fit or lose weight isn't going to cut it, my friend. It's too vague. And vague goals don't give you a roadmap. Even lose 20 pounds isn't enough. That's where the SMART framework comes in. It gives your goals structure and makes them real. Instead of just saying, I want to lose weight, try something like this. I want to lose 20 pounds by July 30th, 2025 by sticking to a 500 calorie deficit daily through a balanced diet, doing 30 minutes of cardio each day, and following the Strong Lifts 5x5 program. I'll track my progress weekly and aim for 2 pounds of weight loss per week. See the difference? It's clear, it's actionable, and it keeps you accountable. This gives you a framework to check yourself against, rather than just relying on an ambiguous statement like, I will lose weight. I know it's tempting to make drastic changes, and you might feel like 20 pounds isn't enough, but you have to be realistic. When you're not, you end up in this terrible 1 step forward, 2 step back situation, and you don't even want to go there, brother. There's something else that I personally find fascinating, and maybe you will too. I'd like you to think back to your school or college days. Remember those big assignments that you'd get a lot of time to complete, like several weeks or even months? Well, for me, those were some of the craziest and most stressful times, but looking back at them, those experiences can teach you something very useful when making New Year's resolutions, and that's the Parkinson's law. This law is best understood by the statement, work expands, so as to fill the time available for its completion. When I look back at some of my college assignments, I now realize that they weren't all that difficult. Like, there was this one project that I had 2 months to work on, but in reality, I could have finished it in 2 weeks. However, because I had a budget of 2 full months, I worked a little here and a little there, but wasted most of the time, and ended up rushing the project during the last week to finish it. I didn't know it then, but that was Parkinson's law in action. It's also why anything contract-based often goes over budget and takes longer than it should. The reason I bring this up is that when you make a New Year resolution, try to give yourself a tighter deadline to accomplish than you're comfortable with, and watch what happens.
And the shorter the amount of time you have, the more productive you're going to be. Why? You have no choice. Tight deadlines amplify your focus. They increase your adrenaline if they're short enough.
When I did it for my 2024 resolutions, I legit smiled in disbelief when I completed them ahead of schedule. It was crazy to see something I initially thought of as a one-year goal get completed in a couple of months. Trust me, brother, it works and it feels amazing because you're tapping into some of that secret, hidden potential in you. And the funny thing about setting shorter deadlines is that even if you don't fully accomplish what you set out to, you'll probably make way more progress than if you gave yourself the entire year as a budget. A year is a long time if you use it wisely, and that's why people who can keep successful resolutions do something else. They know how to prepare.
What are the processes? Well, I think what I've recommended to people is clean up your room. That's a good start.
This is a phrase that made Jordan Peterson a massive online personality and millions of dollars. There's a reason for that. With that statement, he reminded us that our environment has a direct impact on the way we live life. Before you get too involved with 2025, I want to remind you of this fact as well. It doesn't matter what year you're in, but if you wake up and everything looks the same, your mind just isn't able to shift gears like you want it to. Let me tell you a story. Last year in December, I spent the last week cleaning up and organizing my entire living space. Until then, my desk used to be a mess, and I was done with that life. I bought a bunch of cable ties and Velcro straps to tidy everything up. Then I went through my room and got rid of all the clutter I'd never bothered to clean up or organize. By the end of the week, I couldn't believe that I had been living the way I did. And you know the best part about doing this? When January came around, I woke up each morning and loved how beautiful my environment was. It gave me this extra spring in my step, and I no longer woke up with this lethargy and boredom. And at first, I thought it wouldn't last for long. However, it did. When I maintained my environment, my raw physical environment, it felt like I had tapped into this new energy source. James Clear talks about this and describes it in the context of systems, and it's super interesting.
What you need to change is not necessarily your goal, but your system. And the phrase that I like to use is, we do not rise to the level of our goals, we fall to the level of our systems.
You remember when I talked about how hard it was for me to make running a habit? Man, it felt like climbing a mountain with no end in sight. Every excuse in the book showed up. I'm too tired, it's too cold, or I'll just start tomorrow. And if you haven't heard the whole story, I've got it in another video linked for you right here. Trust me, it's worth a watch, because if I can break through that wall, I know you can too. But there's something else about that experience that I really need to share with you here, because it taught me a lesson I didn't expect. A lesson that might be the exact thing you need to hear right now. You see, even after I succeeded, there were days when my bed was so comfortable that it was really tempting to give in and go back to bed instead of running. However, with my room looking the way it did, and I'm not kidding about this, it gave me this crazy main character energy. I'm telling you right now, your environment has magic, so stop overlooking this point, brother. In the same way, one more thing you can do is tell a few select people about your resolutions. Don't worry, you're not asking them to be your accountability partner. You're just relying on that gentle internal reminder from your mind when it sees you about to slack off. So focusing on your environment and using social pressure against yourself are two ways that I've had a lot of success with. Now, the most important thing to remember about New Year's resolutions is that they aren't really resolutions. They are New Year habits. I say this because resolutions are not a one and done deal, which means you have to master the art of creating habits. Will Durant said, "We are what we repeatedly do." Excellence then is not an act, but a habit. If you're hoping to change your life with a resolution, remember that it all starts with your ability to make and keep habits. So here's the tip I promised you earlier that will make habits super easy. It uses what neuroscientists call procedural memory. And here's what you want to do. Think of the habit you want to make and visualize yourself acting out all the steps that it entails. So suppose you want to make going to the gym every day a habit. You would visualize yourself looking at the clock, putting on your gym clothes, finding your gym bag, and walking out and driving to the gym.
Just one mental exercise of thinking through what are the sequence of steps required in order to perform this habit from start to finish can shift the likelihood of being able to perform that habit from unlikely or to moderately likely to very likely over time.
It's almost scary how effective this simple technique is, and I'd like you to try it today on something to test it out. Once you have, don't forget to let me know how it worked for you in the comments. I'm kind of curious to hear how it works in your life. At the end of the day, what really matters is that you change, not whether that starts on January 1st or any other day. Sure, we like New Year's resolutions because it's fun to map out progress over a year, but the truth is, real change happens in the day-to-day grind. It's all about being smart with your approach and building unbreakable discipline, which is something I've covered many times on my channel, like this video that you might want to check out next. Look, I know 2024 might not have been your best year yet. For a lot of us it wasn't, but that doesn't define what's next. With determination, 2025 can be the year everything starts to shift for you. So I'll leave you with Benjamin Franklin's wise words. Be at war with your vices, at peace with your neighbors, and let every new year find you a better man. Thanks for all the support. Here's to a better, brighter year ahead. I'll see you soon.